All right. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. My name is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Podiums make me nervous every single time. I have a plan, so I think I'm going to be able to use the whole time. I get nervous and talk fast, and then I run. I stopped. I finished too soon. Anyway, I uh, my mom is, I would say, probably an alcoholic. She she had her like sixth or seventh DUI before I was 10 and stopped driving. Um, and so I never had a parent who drove, so I didn't get my license until I was 28. And I think it saved a lot of lives, not just my own. And so anyhow, when I was a teenager, I did, wild teenager stuff and drank, did whatever else was around. And uh, when I think I was 15 when it happened, I woke up from a blackout and I didn't know where I was. And I went outside and I still didn't know where I was. And it terrified me. And I was already an outpatient because I was already in some trouble. And I called my mom and I was like, I need inpatient treatment. Like, this is not okay. This isn't how I want to live. And so I went to treatment and I was much, much too smart for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't stay around very long. And but I did like get involved. Like, I went to the 95 convention in San Diego as this over like 17-year-old. And so, I mean, I did like try to get in a little bit. And anyhow, so then I spent a couple of decades. I had a baby when I was 19. I didn't drink a lot when she was small, and I had a different substance to help out through that time. And I'd say probably around my mid 20s or so is when I started um, drinking alcoholically again. And I I never drove drunk because I think because of the age that I got a license, everyone I knew had one and they sounded expensive, and so that kept me out of some trouble there. And I could, if I drove, I could have one drink and leave a place, but I always went home and drank like an alcoholic, or I drank like an alcoholic out and had to be carried home. Um, I Somewhere around my late 30s, I decided that maybe California could fix me. And so I moved to a tiny little town in Northern California. And so, like, back up a little bit, I had dated this guy. His name was Donovan. We were together for quite a while here. And when we broke up here, we both were drank alcoholically. And when we broke up, I basically like kicked him out of Washington. You can't stay here anymore. Go back to California. And then in like January 2015, I went on a vacation to Hawaii. And while I was there, I spent like hours on the phone with him, blackout drunk, and like came up with this plan to move to California to be with him. Well, I had a boyfriend. And then, so it was 6 months of, drama to finally get to California. And we, and it was bad from the start. We broke up on purpose the first time. And so, about every 3 months, we would get into some like knockdown, drag out thing. And I would convince him to let me stay. And the last one of those things that happened, yeah, we were, screaming at each other, and I was like, if I really thought you didn't want me here, I would leave. And he said, I'll never forget this as long as I live. He looked me dead in my eyes and said, Jenny, I never wanted you here, and I told you that from the beginning. And it was just like it all came crashing down, that like I could be unaware of how I was impacting people. And it was just like, oh man, like I can't stay here now. Like I hurt him, I hurt him deep. And so I moved out, and within a couple of weeks of moving out, I was, granted, I was not only drinking, and I weighed about 103 pounds. It was August of 2015 no, 2017, 16, doesn't matter. I 3 weeks after the breakup, I woke up in jail looking at 13 felonies, and that was going to be it. I was going to get sober. I pled to misdemeanor. It was, I didn't really get in a lot of trouble. Some of my family drove down to California to like see me in jail and look me in my eyes and make sure I was something like okay. And so then I got out of jail, and it was going to be different, right? I had a new boyfriend, because I found one day after the breakup. He was waiting in the wings, and because that's what we do. and so I got out of jail, and it was going to be different. We were going to get sober, and we were going to have a different life than that. And within 6 hours of getting out of jail, I was loaded again. And I spent about 14 months trying to die and not being able to. And during those dark months, it's another thing I'll never forget. My friend Jesse, who had gotten sober in Alcoholics Anonymous a number of years prior, sent me a message on Facebook. And he said, "Hey, girl, I don't know your story, but I know that it's the same as mine. And when you're ready, I have a seat saved in Alcoholics Anonymous for you." And and so I drove home from California. It was quite an ordeal getting home from California as somebody who was, you know, strung out and drunk, and it was hard. And I clawed my way home, and like I needed a tire for my car, and nobody wants to send me cash because it's real clear how I'm living. And I had 2 friends that trusted me enough to send me money. One of them was Jesse's brother, and another one was just a lifelong friend. And so I finally get home, and I go to my first AA meeting, and I absolutely hate it. I do not want to be there. I'm so bummed that this is all that's left. And I know it's all that's left, right? I am flat out of ideas. If California doesn't work, nothing's going to work. and so I went anyway, and I was very lucky. I had a sponsor. I got a sponsor. I went to one of those meetings, and I don't know why more meetings don't do this. It was one of those meetings that not only said, if you're willing to be a sponsor, raise your hand. They also said, if you don't have a sponsor, please raise your hand, so that everyone raising their hands could see each other and people could get sober. And I'm so glad that I was in a meeting where that happened, because I did. Somebody that knew us both was like, "You two are perfect," and connected us. And I just totally lost my train of thought. I was fortunate because Stacy made it really clear to me right away that it didn't actually matter what I wanted. It mattered what I did. And I kept going to meetings, and I didn't go every day at first, but about day 45, I heard about 90 and 90, and I'm an overachiever, so I got to do that now, right? That's what we're doing. I'm doing that. And so I just was in a lot of meetings in that beginning. And I heard a lot of stuff that stuck. And, one day at a time absolutely 100% saved my life. Like if I had thought I had to do any more than not drink today, I couldn't have stayed here, and I couldn't have done this. And that was true for a long time. And the other 2 things that really stood out was there was this guy who was telling a story about the years he spent going in and out of AA, and that he was on another end telling that story. And an old timer came up to him after the meeting and said, "You can't say you're going in and out if you never come in. You got to do the work." And then somebody else said that if you get all the way in and sit all the way down, and you do this for a year and nothing changes, the misery is refundable. You can flip us off and tell us we were wrong and go back to the life you don't want. And I was like, okay, like I'll stay and I'll do it anyway. And because I was just desperate, and I think the God thing had a bunch to do with me not wanting to be here when I was younger. My parents were both raised Catholic and kept me as far away from church as they could get me. And so I just didn't have like much of a concept of God or what that might be. And I mean, I had some like lofty ideas about the universe, and like I do believe that there's something, right? That wasn't hard. And so I did what my sponsor said. I went to her house every week, and she read me the book, and we prayed when it said to pray, and we wrote when it said to write, and I just kept doing it anyway, like whether I felt like it or not. It just didn't matter how I wanted or what I wanted. And it was funny because I moved home and into my mom's house, and then I'm like mad at her about it. Like I'm 40 years old living at home, and it's her fault somehow. And so the steps really helped with that, right? And one wasn't hard, right? Like I know that I'm powerless, and I know that my life is unmanageable, and of course I believe that like there's something, and and sure I can turn my will and my life over. And then I drug my feet on my 4-step for a while. And I remember thinking, like, I remember thinking when we started reading, God, this seems like it's taken a really long time. I feel like we're going a little slow. Like we're a page a week sometimes. Like, what is this lady doing? And then like it occurred to me that 4 was around the corner, and I was like, hey, lady, slow down. What's your hurry, ma'am? Where's the fire? And it was funny. It was like one day it was like instantly different. And so anyhow, I keep doing this stuff, and I get around to. I got some amends to make, and I'm really, and I'm terrified of it. And I had heard enough people tell stories about being terrified and doing it anyway, and like having some freedom on the other side. Um, I I wasn't ready to make it. I wasn't willing to make an amends to my mom, and I had to get willing. And so that was like one of my first experiences with really like asking God every day. I need to feel different about this because I have to do something, and I can't do it. And I finally could do it. And the thing I left out when I made my amends to my mom, the thing that she had been most impacted by was something I didn't even remember. I did not remember because I was blacked out when it happened. It just was nothing to me. I'm not talking loud enough for someone in the back. I'm sorry. Come closer. And so, and I mentioned I had the baby at 19, and she's in her early 20s when I got sober, and we had a relationship, but it was not a close relationship. She would talk to me kinda, and I could see her kinda, but there was no warmth or closeness to what we had going on when I got sober. And she had followed me to California, and some bad stuff had happened. I don't have time in 15 minutes to tell that story, but and so when I made amends to her, it was one of those things that I left out. It was like, God, it's just wild what we can forget, right? And so anyhow, I make the amends to her, and I'm kind of seeing her sometimes, and I tell her like, hey kid, I would really love to see you regularly. I don't know if that's once a month or every other week or what you're comfortable with, but I just would like to be on your calendar somehow. And she said, I have Wednesdays off. And me and that little girl spent every Wednesday afternoon together for years. And she knew I was coming, right? She never wondered if I was coming or not. And she had a baby last August, and I'm the only person she trusts with that baby. Like on the planet. She trusts me more than she trusts her dad. Hope he doesn't hear this. He probably knows though. I'm reliable. And like that is the gift of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like I am somebody different today than I was when I walked in the door. And I just, people know that I'm coming when I say that I will. And I get asked to show up for AA, and it's an honor to say yes. You know, and I went through some stuff I don't know, about a year or so ago where I wasn't thinking about leaving AA, but I wasn't thinking about staying in AA. And I got honest about it at a meeting because that's what I learned to do. And then I got a little more involved, and I'm not going anywhere. Everyone in my life is in recovery. I don't know anybody who's not, I don't think. My brother, that's another story we don't have time for in 15 minutes. But even he texts every day. You know, even if it's not what I want to see. And like my mom and I, it's still hard. I still don't always want to show up for her. But again, it doesn't matter what I want, and I just show up and I do it anyway. And that relationship heals. And like the relationship that I have with my grandbaby is I couldn't have imagined loving a baby this much. It was funny because I remember saying, my mom and I were talking about loving our kids and loving our kids' kids. And she was like, well, you'll always be my favorite. Like I couldn't love one of them more than I love you. And I was like, oh, you're out of your mind. Because this baby is 100% my favorite. Like she is at the top. Jen is a close second, but that baby is at the top. And like today I went and saw them and dropped some stuff off for them. And she screamed when I left, and it was like, and I hate when she does that, but I love when she does that. It's like so special to know that I matter to her, that she knows who I am, and that she wants me around. And I spend a lot of time with her. My daughter and her partner both work, and I spend a lot of time with that baby. And you know, I work in a place where people are in recovery, and it's just I couldn't have imagined life the way that it is today. And I've walked through some really hard stuff sober. It hasn't all been, you know, fun and easy. And, you know, I've had my heart broken, and I stayed sober, you know, and it's just, it doesn't matter what happens. I still I get to go back to the basics of, I just don't have to drink today. No matter what else is going on. If I don't drink today, I'm going to make it another day, and I'm going to be okay. And, you know, one of the things about the 10-step promises is, I guess I'll just try to read them. I don't even know if I could find the page. I don't have my glasses. I'm a mess. I'm running out of seconds too, but here we go. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And like that place of neutrality, safe and protected, is true for me. And I couldn't have imagined that being true when I got here. So thank you.
Thank you.